All right, today we're jumping into the book of James. And let me tell you, this is one of the most practical and one of the most challenging books in the entire New Testament. We're going to be using some amazing insights from Chuck Missler to really get to the core of what this letter is all about.
And it all starts with this one big question. I want you to think about this for a second. Why is there so often a huge gap between what we say we believe and how we actually live our lives? It's this tension that James just forces us to look at, and it's just as real today as it was 2,000 years ago.
So, where does all this incredibly direct wisdom come from? Well, to really get the message, you've got to understand the man who wrote it. So the author is James. And this isn't just anybody. This is the half-brother of Jesus Christ and a major leader in the early church back in Jerusalem. His whole focus wasn't some abstract head-in-the-clouds theology. Nope. It was all about practical application. I mean, think about this. His letter has 60 commands, 60, in just 108 verses. The guy is not messing around. His message is crystal clear. Real faith is something you do, not just something you think. James kicks things off by talking about something we all deal with, temptation. But he totally flips the script on where we think it comes from. And he basically says, look, if you want to win this battle, you have to know where the battle actually begins. Now, this is a pretty radical idea. James says we can't blame God, we can't blame our situation, we can't blame the devil. The problem starts when we are drawn away by our own desires. And that phrase, drawn away, it's actually a hunting term. It paints this picture of bait being used to lure an animal out of its hiding place and into a trap. So James is saying the danger, it's inside us. And you can see how this creates a chain reaction. Chuck Missler broke this down so well. It all starts with that internal desire, right? But if you feed it, if you dwell on it, that desire conceives. It's a biological term, and it gives birth to sin. And if you let that sin grow up, if you let it run its full course, the end of the road is always spiritual death. It's a clear progression that starts right between your ears. Okay, so if our problems start inside us, where does the solution come from? Well, James pivots from our broken nature to God's perfect nature. And to explain how we tap into this, Chuck Missler uses this fantastic analogy that you're going to love. You feel the shift here? It's a total contrast. Temptation bubbles up from within us. But James says every good and perfect thing comes from above. It flows down from the Father of Lights, a name that's all about God's total consistency and goodness. Now, this is super cool. Missler, who had a background in physics, he just loved this phrase. The word for variableness in the original Greek is parallaxe. It's where we get our word parallax. You know, parallax is that apparent shift you see in an object's position when you look at it from different angles. So to say God has no parallax, no shadow of turning, it's a profound way of saying he is infinite, he's unchanging, he's absolutely constant. His position never ever shifts. So building on this idea of a perfect divine light, Missler gives us one of his most powerful analogies to explain the very design of the Bible itself. He says it's like a hologram. Okay, so stick with me here because this is fascinating. In normal, everyday light, a holographic plate just looks like a murky, meaningless piece of film, kind of a mess. To someone reading the Bible without any spiritual insight, it can seem that way too, just a bunch of weird stories that don't connect. But when you shine the right kind of light on that plate, a coherent laser light, which Missler compares to the Holy Spirit, an incredible three-dimensional image of Jesus Christ just pops into view. And here's the kicker, the part that's so amazing. If you break that plate into 100 pieces, every single tiny fragment still contains the entire image. You shine the light on a tiny corner, you still see the whole thing, just with a little less resolution. And that, Missler argued, is how the Bible is designed. The essential truths are woven through the entire thing, so the main message can never, ever be lost. And that brings us right to the heart of it all. After explaining where temptation comes from and the divine solution, James just cuts to the chase with a challenge that gets right in your face.
This right here, this is the thesis statement of the whole book. James is warning us point blank. If all you do is listen to the word, if you just collect knowledge, go to seminars, read books, but never do anything with it, you're just playing a game with yourself. You're deceiving yourself.
And to drive the point home, he uses this brilliantly simple analogy. He says, a person who only hears the word is like someone who just takes a quick glance at their face in a mirror. You know, they see themselves for a split second. They see the truth, maybe there's something on their face, their hair is a mess, but then they just turn around, walk away, and instantly forget what they saw.
The knowledge had zero impact, it changed nothing.
So this really presents us with two completely different paths. On the one hand, you've got the forgetful hearer. This is the person who fools themselves into thinking that just knowing stuff is enough, but because they don't act, the word becomes useless, and the religion is what James calls vain. It's empty. But then you have the effective doer. What's their secret? They don't just glance, they look intently into the word. They apply it. They make it a habit. And James says that person will be blessed, not for what they know, but for what they do. So what does this doing actually look like in the real world? James doesn't leave us guessing. He gets super specific and defines what he calls pure and undefiled religion.
For James, true religion has nothing to do with fancy ceremonies or just showing up for an hour a week. It's all about active obedience. And he boils it down to two key practical expressions. These are the two pillars of real faith in action. It's not one or the other, it's both. First, there's active compassion that faces outward, a real, hands-on concern for the most vulnerable people in your community. And second, there's personal integrity that faces inward, a commitment to stay morally clean and not get stained by the corruption of the world. It's care for others and care for your own soul. So we're going to end it with the same tough question that Chuck Missler would often leave his audience with, a question that really gets to the heart of everything James is saying. Don't just ask yourself if you believe the right things. Ask yourself this. Is there anyone in your life, anyone who knows you well, who might look at your life and doubt your commitment? And if the answer is maybe, ask yourself why. That's the mirror James is holding up for all of us, challenging us to finally close that gap between hearing and doing.